So the first thing I wanted to share is kind of my beginning story. So I've wanted to do, you know, build a business. I've loved, investing, those kind of topics. I've spent a lot of time researching and studying and dabbling in several arenas that way. Started, I guess, in my high school. I had an economics class with a really, really good professor who just did a great job of kind of communicating, some of the things that were out there, real estate investing. He shared an experience of someone he knew that completely transformed their life that way. And we made a mock company. We did some mock stock investing. And I think that's really the point where I started to get a glimmer of, I wanted that in my life. And then fast forward, went to college. In college, my dad makes brick sculptures, and it's been a very small business, and I was trying to help him and also help, build that business. And I actually, went through all this stuff, took photos, tried to make a catalog for him, all these things. And I was in school clear across the country, so I tried to sell those to people out there. And it turns out it costs a whole lot of money to ship a brick sculpture, and that kind of died. And I didn't go into another foray into business until, several years later, probably 7 or 8 years later. Got into making knives, loved making handmade knives. This was before all the TV shows about it, and went to knife shows and was doing better and better at that, but I do have tendonitis. And so it took a lot of work to make each knife. It was my skill that went into it. And so it wasn't something I could easily hire for. I ran into problems trying to scale it. And during all of that time, I was working, at that point, a job I actually did like, and then got laid off from that job. We got bought out by a Canadian company, and then 3 years later, they laid off all the U.S. employees, and it was right in the middle of the housing crash. And 2009, went through a period of not finding work for 3 months, and I am not one to sit by and not work. So I took a job making $24,000 a year with a family of 6. Still don't know how we made it through that time. A lot of prayers, a lot of hard work, and a lot of, honestly, some suffering in there. But a lot of me feeling like a failure, a lot of trying to figure out how to do things better and not, and truly have more of a career path and a growth journey. And so took that very serious, became a manager at that job very quickly. And then for that next year, it was probably my favorite place I'd ever worked. At that point, the layoff started and the banking crisis hit, was really setting in. I made it through a lot of rounds of layoffs, and it was the most fear-based culture as the layoffs were setting in and witch hunts for different things. And I know the government was really looking at banks harshly at that point. And so there was a lot of scripts that were rolled out that didn't really make much sense, and there was not a lot of thought put into them. They were trying to frantically meet government regulations at that time. And anyway, never got laid off there, but made it through a whole bunch of those. But by the end, I was just miserable. And I remember one day walking down the hall and seeing a woman coming the other way. And she had headphones on, smiling, kind of laughing, listening to music. And she saw my face and she jumped backwards. And to me, that was a wake-up call that I was miserable, I was stressed, I was frustrated. And obviously, if it was that much on my face, there was a problem. And probably stayed there another 3 years, which is crazy to me. So I stayed there 10 years total. And then finally took my first jump into entrepreneurship, and I'll share more about that later.